Alright, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening once again to each one of us. Let us continue our discussion on still hair analysis part 2, and we are now on the examination of hairs. So, what we will be discussing are the macroscopic, microscopic, and then scale casting, medullary pattern analysis, and also DNA analysis from the root, okay, as the scope of methods, the methods of examining the hair. And let's start with the macroscopic examination. When we say macroscopic, this term is used also in the analysis of semen, because when we say macroscopic, it talks about assessing the fluid or the evidence through the use of eyes, or it is a visual, okay, assessment. And since it is a visual assessment, the other name also of this method is known as the physical examination. And to define, it is a visual inspection of hair using the naked eye or a hand with the following characteristics. We're going to observe in macroscopic examination the color, length, texture, and emphasizing the classification of hair. Is it straight? Is it wavy? Is it curly? And also the thickness of the hair, and for the probable visible damage. If the hair was burnt, if the hair was dyed, if the hair was cut. So those are the important characteristics that we are observing under the macroscopic examination. Second, microscopic. This is the use of microscope, and we are examining the cuticle structure, cortex pigmentation, medulla type, and shaft diameter, as well as the artificial treatments. That's why I have shown examples of images under microscopic, okay, hair examination in the previous discussion. Next, scale casting. What do we do here? We look at the cuticle scale pattern. So, as an overview, the first thing that we're going to do is to apply a clear nail polish or resin to a glass slide, and then we're going to place the hair for coating and allow it to dry. So what are the patterns that commonly observed? There might be an imbricate pattern, and if it is imbricate pattern, that states the hair under investigation, or the hair evidence, is of human type. And coronal, these are common in rodents. Spinous, these are common in cats and some animals. That's why the hair analysis is very complex, and we are able to create an hypothesis through hair analysis once we are examining them. So if it is imbricate pattern, human, and then coronal, rodents, spinous, and for cats and animals. So I do hope that you are familiar with such common scale patterns. So for example, a hair recovered from a warehouse shows a coronal scale pattern, indicating it likely came from a rodent rather than a human suspect. That's why kanina, or in the previous discussion, I always say, do not conclude immediately. Do not report immediately. Just because you have found a hair on a crime scene or at the crime scene, you are going to conclude this is a human hair, and the scene is rape or was rape. No, actually, that is not always the case. We're going to undergo macroscopic examination first, and then bring it to the lab for the microscopic examination to determine the following: the scale pattern as well as the medulla type. Okay, that's why I have demonstrated, okay, with you the types of hair determination at the body, the sex, the age, and by race, so that we are able to understand, okay, the specific type of hair being um, tested at the crime scene. Okay? Next, we have the medullary pattern analysis. So, ito yung sinasabi ko. Please take note that for humans, less than 1/3 ang standard ideal na medullary. Tapos sa animals naman, greater than 1/2. So, you're going to be familiarized on the different patterns: continuous, interrupted, fragmented, tapos absent. Okay? Ayan. So, to show you a contrast, this is the difference between human and animal kay medalla. So, kindly pause or kindly take note the following difference for your review. And also, we have the DNA analysis. DNA analysis involves extracting nuclear DNA from the hair follicle. This is to establish individual identity. So, what are the things that we need to be familiarized? Ayan. Hair with root tissue can be used to extract the nuclear DNA, and that will be used for the individual identification. Hair without root may use mitochondrial DNA, and that is for maternal lineage also. So, for the case of sexual assault, ayan, a hair with a follicular tag is recovered from the victim's clothing. So, that is if that is the case, then we should bring it immediately to the DNA. So, tandaan natin, that's why the anatomy and physiology of the hair is important, kasi nga, kapag ka may root yan, pwedeng pinag-ot. Pag wala, pwedeng harassment or sexual assault. Okay? Ganun lang yan. Tapos, ang ganda, kung itatry ninyo na i-magnify yung beauty po ng hair analysis, at saka kung try nyo talagang internalize, talagang gagaling ka eh. Feeling mo magiging wise ka, no, sa pag-determine ng mga evidence. Okay? So, malalaman natin na, pagka pala mayroong buhok sa crime scene, hindi agad pwedeng mag-conclude na sexual assault yung nangyari, kasi ang pwede pang proseso na gawin sa buhok, ipunta sa crime lab, okay, ititest yan ng forensic chemistry and toxicology, tignan kung buhok ba yan ng tao o buhok ng hayop. Kung buhok ng tao, okay, kailangan mong identify, okay, hindi dapat basta mag-identify ka na Pinoy yan. Dapat i-identify mo na foreigner pa rin yan. Okay, kung foreigner ba yan, Pinoy nga ba? Ngayon, kung hayop naman yan, kailangan mo pang i-determine, yan ba ay buhok ng daga o buhok ng pusa. So, anong mga basis natin? Tingnan mo una ang cuticle. Ang tawag dyan ay scale pattern analysis. Pangalawa, medullary analysis. So, ano po ang kaibahan ng medula ng tao sa medula ng hayop? Yung medula ng tao, dapat less than 1/3 lang ang kanyang kapal. Pero kapag ka naman greater than 1/2, yon at mas makapal, yon ay sa hayop. Usually, ang medula ng aso sobrang kapal. Okay? Ang medula ng aso ay pwede mong ikumpara sa iyong pubic hair. Pero paano naman natin i-determine kung buhok pa talaga ng aso yan or buhok ng pubic hair? Usually, kapag ka sa titignan mo yung scale pattern tsaka medullary pattern. Okay? So, kapag may hypothesis ka na sa kung paano nangyari yung crime scene, meron ka ng crime scene process, okay, ipadala mo naman yung mga ebidensya na nakita mo sa toxicology. Okay? Kasi, yun ang kagandahan sa subject na forensic chemistry and toxicology. Kailangan natin na ma-prove na yung evidence talagang ito ay totoo, at kailangan talaga na ma-justify using scientific principles and instrumentation methods yung mismong ebidensya. Okay? Kaya kung gusto mo talaga ng accurate and precise na evidence na talagang ito yung patunay, you must undergo or you must use the scientific principles such as the principles we are learning in the forensic chemistry and toxicology. Okay po? Yan, sana po nag-guess ninyo. Ngayon, titignan mo naman kung yung buhok ba may root or kung yung buhok ba wala. Kasi pwede mo ma-identify kung ang buhok ba na yan ay sinabunutan or kung ang buhok ba na yan ay talagang kusang natanggal. Pinag-aaralan natin sa previous discussion na normally talaga may nalalagas na buhok. Ang nalalagas na buhok kasi maybe because it is undergoing to hair cycle. Diba? We have understand the hair cycle. We have what we call the anagen, catagen, and then the telogen. Kaya minsan may mga nalalagas talaga na buhok. At sabi natin, pwede rin naman niyang malalagas by force. Okay? Baka naman pinag-ut mo using forceps or baka naman to make it accurately and near at the crime scene, no? Baka naman nanlaban kasi yung may-ari ng buhok na yan, pwedeng sinapak, pwedeng nakipagsabunutan talaga, pwedeng nanlaban, kaya may mga natanggal na buhok. Okay? Pero yung buhok na yan ay pwede pa rin ipadaan sa mga further testing para sa confirmation naman ng mga paggamit ng mga pinagbabawal na gamot o kaya naman mga nakakalasong bagay. Okay? Kasi pwede ka namang malagasan ng buhok due to chemical. Okay? O kaya naman dahil sa mga ingestion tsaka intake mo ng mga pinagbabawal na gamot, kaya nagkaroon ng alteration doon mismo sa hair growth cycle na lagas. See, it's very complicated. And we need to have an continuous training to be equipped under the field of forensic chemistry and toxicology. Okay, so this is the medical legal importance of the hair. So hair is important in the crime scene investigation for it remains identifiable on both the body and the alleged weapons in crimes committed long before. Okay? Tandaan din natin in rape and sodomy, the pubic hair of the accused may be found on the victim or vice versa. Yan yung sinasabi ko. Paano mo malaman na pubic hair yan? Baka naman sinulid yan. Baka naman ano yan. Baka naman yung fiber lang na pinantatali. Baka naman nylon lang yan. Okay. So, if you want to identify na pubic hair talaga, then look at the hair microscopically. If you found a medulla, then yun. Kung may medulla, pubic hair. Pag wala, baka nga artifacts lang siya or talagang fiber siya. Okay? 3. Hair is important in identification, okay, especially where there has been some known peculiarity of the hair, dyeing, bleaching, or artificial weaving. Okay, for the fourth, in chronic poisoning with heavy metals, such as arsenic, the poison can be detected in the hair. Kaya po, napakahalaga ng hair follicle test. So, alam nyo na kung sino sa bansa natin ang nag-trending ng hair follicle test. Why? Kasi, take note ha, the word chronic is long-time user. The word chronic has the idea of being a long-term. Continuous yan. Guys, pwede ba na ma-detect ang mga toxins, ang mga poisons or drugs sa isang tao na consumer at saka user? Yes, lalo kapag chronic poisoning siya. So, kailangan nating tandaan dito na isang strand lang ng hair, pwede ka nang makapagbigay ng conclusion at result doon mismo sa tinitest mong pasyente o kaya naman sa user or consumer. Why? Later on, I will be discussing to you the passive diffusion. It is a scientific principle that describes how drugs interact with the hair in a chronic person or chronic patient that uses drugs or that may be contaminated with a toxin or poison. Nakuha po? Ayan. And also, kaya ang ganda ng buhok or hair na source ng evidence. Pwede kang maka-identify ng chronic poisoning dyan. O kaya naman chronic usage or user of drugs. Okay? And also, yung time of death. Guys, sabi ko noon sa discussion, ang nature ng buhok ay protein. Ang buhok, matagal po yan na mamatay. Kahit patay na yung katawan mo, ang buhok nandyan pa rin. So, time of death can sometimes be determined from the growth of the hair on the face. Minsan kumukupas yung buhok, tumitigas, nagiging manipis. Okay? Yan. Also, it is helpful in differentiating scalds from burns. At the age of the person may be determined from growth of the hair on different parts of the body. Since I have mentioned that there are classifications of hair, meron tayong vellus, intermediate at saka terminal. Pagka may mga pasyente o taong nasusunugan, it depends on the degree of burns. Kaya nga minsan may mga tao na nasunog, tapos nakaligtas, halimbawa may emergency, di ba, nasunog ang bahay, nasunog ang apartment, tapos makikita ninyo may mga second, third degree burns, tapos makikita ninyo na kapag gumaling na yung mga yan, hindi na sila tinutubuan ng buhok. Okay, class, yung hair ay isa sa mga importante na basis natin para malaman kung ang hair ba ay tutubo pa o hindi na sa mga nasunugan. Bakit? Pinakita ko sa inyo yung anatomy and physiology. Nandoon at merong 3 layers ng skin. Epidermis, dermis, and then the subcutaneous. Yung hair root, andun sa may dermis. So pagka nasunog yan, 3rd degree, at naabot ng sunog yung dermis part ng skin, talagang hindi na po tutubo ang buhok. Pero pag mababaw lang ang sunog, most probably doon lang sa may hair shaft. Okay? Doon lang sa mga hair na nakaprotrude doon sa ibabaw ng skin. Pag naalis yun, as long as meron yung hair bulb at saka yung hair root, pwede pa rin tumubo ang buhok. Okay? Sex may be determined from their distribution also on the body and the texture. So, ito po yung tinatawag natin na mechanism of drug incorporation. So, papag-aralan na natin kung bakit kapag ikaw ay chronic user ng drugs o kaya naman ikaw ay nabiktima ng chronic poisoning, okay, pwede kang makakuha ng ebidensya or pwede nating malaman kung ikaw ba ay chronic user na. Meron tayong tinatawag na mechanism of drug incorporation. Kasi po ang droga, o kaya naman toxins or poisons, pagka yan ay na-ingest natin, sasama po yan sa dugo, mula ulo hanggang paa, dumadaloy po yan, at nadideposit po yan sa mga tissues. Yan po yung idea. Kaya hindi mo pwedeng i-deny na ikaw ay chronic user. Kung halimbawa, mayroong nagbigay ng warrant of arrest sa'yo, tapos i-deny ng pasyenteng yon or yung taong yon na hindi po ako chronic user. Okay, sige, ganitong gawin mo. Pahingi ng buhok with your consent, pagkatapos i-test natin. Okay? Ang tinatawag dyan na test ay hair follicle test. Okay? So, bago tayo pumunta sa hair follicle test, aralin mo natin yung ibig sabihin ng drugs at saka ng trace elements. Okay, please take note that drugs and trace elements circulating in the body are incorporated into hair during periods of metabolic activity and cell division. Di ba meron tayong anagen, catagen at saka telogen phases? Itong mga phases na ito ng buhok, habang ang buhok ay tumutubo, actually, yung drugs sumasama na doon. Okay? Kaya kahit magpakalbo ka, alam mong user ka o kaya naman you are chronic poisoned sa katawan mo, undergoing a chronic poisoning. Ang nangyayari diyan, pwede ka pa ring makuhanan ng positive result na ikaw ay chronic user ng droga. Kasi kahit magpakalbo ka pa, as long as hindi mo naalis yung hair bulb o yung hair root, kung nasaan talaga yung origin ng buhok, sasama doon po yung metabolite or trace element ng mga poison or droga. Okay, so usually, saan ba ginagamit ang mga ito? Sa forensic toxicology. Pag halimbawa, yun nga, sa majority and primarily drug user. Di ba? Ito, to set you an example para mag-guess nyo, our President BBM is always urged, okay, to have or to undergo hair follicle test. Okay, sabi ng iba, negative ang resulta niya, wala namang nakitang drug sa kanya. So, ibig sabihin, allegedly, sinasabihan kasi nila si President BBM na chronic user. Ibig sabihin, simula pa nung bata siya. Kasi usually ang idea ng chronic nga matagal na gumagamit. So, paano natin i-prove? Alangan ituturo lang natin si BBM or presidente? No. Kaya nga siya tinawag na allege or allegedly. Okay? Kasi nga, ang nangyayari doon sa hair follicle niya, may mga possibility, kung totoo man, no? Ang reality kasi, yung mga trace elements ng droga o yung mga byproduct ng drugs na ginagamit niya, pwedeng makuha sa buhok. Okay? Kaya kahit halimbawa si BBM or kung sino man yung tao na prolonged user ng ganoong gamot, kahit magpakalbo yan, magpagupit yan, pag tumubo yung buhok niya ulit, ayan, kasama pa rin dyan. Okay? So, yun ang kagandahan ng Forensic 5 or toxicology. Okay, so, ito yung mga ruta ng drugs. Pag halimbawa, isang tao, okay, nag-ingest siya ng drugs, una, dadaan yan sa blood supply natin, circulation, head to toe. Okay? Pangalawa, yung mga incorporated drugs ay pwedeng dumaan sa sebum or sebum. Guys, ano yung sebum na sinabi ko? 'Di ba doon sa hair, merong naka-attach na sebaceous gland. Yung sebaceous gland ang naglalabas ng natural na oil doon sa ating mga buhok. Kaya kahit maligo ka o hindi, mayroon at mayroong oil ang buhok dahil sa sebaceous gland. Ang ginagawa ng oil na yan, minsan, nagtatrap siya ng mga microorganism sa buhok o kaya yung mga dandruff. Tapos kapag ka nanigas yan at natrap siya sa loob ng skin natin or scalp, yun yung parang pimples na masakit. Okay? At ang nangyayari, kaya mayroon kang parang namumuo minsan sa buhok mo na hindi mo alam naman kung yan ay dandruff, but actually medyo malaki siya na hindi mo ma-describe, para siyang buhangin. Actually, that's the hardened sebum na nakalabas sa skin at nakapag-trap ng mga maduduming bagay sa buhok natin. Okay? At dahil sebum yan, pwede mong makita doon yung mismong byproduct ng droga. Next, sweat bathing. Okay, ano ba yung sweat? Sweat is pawis. Okay? Sa pawis natin, bakit? Saan ba lumalabas ang pawis? Actually, dun sa skin natin, may mga maliliit na pores. Head to feet, except the palm or the sole of the feet and also our palm. Okay? May mga maliliit kasi na pores ang skin. Ang pores ay lagusan at labasan ng tubig. Okay? Actually, yung pawis natin, syempre, pwedeng ma-incorporate yun sa buhok, di ba? Obvious naman. O pwede siyang makuha or maging ebidensya para malaman natin kung ikaw ba ay chronic user. Tapos meron tayong tinatawag na external contamination. Pag sinabi natin na external contamination, syempre, yung mga galing sa labas na yan. Okay. So, meron kasing mga models para malaman natin at magets natin yung reaction or interaction ni drug sa buhok. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na passive diffusion. What does passive diffusion say? Drugs directly from the blood supply, supplies the hair follicle. So, alam naman natin na ang hair follicle ay ito yung buhok na nandoon sa may dermis or scalp natin. So, talagang very vulnerable siya sa interaction ng drugs. Kung maalala ninyo yung discussion ko, di ba dun sa pinakadulo ng hair, merong capillary doon at merong papilla. Yung capillary, yan po yung pinakamanipis na ugat na nagsusupply or capable why the hair is being supplied with blood because of the capillary that is connected to it. Okay? And the idea here in the passive diffusion is that the drug concentrations in hair would correlate with the drug concentration in the blood at the time of hair synthesis. So if you are a drug user, okay, tandaan mo palagi, you cannot deny the facts that once the drugs are ingested and it was processed already by the liver and has reached the bloodstream and it passed through all the vessels from head to toe, always conclude that it reaches the hair. It reaches the hair root and may be detected to the hair follicle. And the higher drug concentrations that you have consumed or ingested will always or directly proportional give you a drug concentration product in your blood. So sa madaling salita, para mas maunahan ninyo, okay, ang drugs, pag in-ingest mo, ipoproseso ng liver, magiging metabolite or byproduct. Pag sinabi nating metabolite or byproduct, magiging molecule na lang siya. At the higher you consume, the higher na i-process ng katawan ang drugs, the higher the metabolite. The lesser you ingest, the lesser, okay, you consume, the lesser the metabolite. Para ano lang yan? Pag kumain ka, okay, ng 100 grams, ibig sabihin, sa loob, pag prinases, meron ding 100 grams. Pag lumunok ka ng 500 grams, mapaprocess ang 500 grams sa katawan. Okay? Are you getting the idea? Okay, halimbawa, okay, heroin, which is the primary metabolite, may be detected and found in higher concentration. Okay? That's why it should incorporate the idea of pharmacology. Kasi sa pharmacology, inaaral natin dito ang galaw ng mga pharmaceutical drugs. Guys, when I say drugs, I'm not talking about the dangerous drugs. These drugs, okay, included the pharmaceutical drugs. Okay? But since we are criminologists, my example is the consumption of dangerous drugs. You cannot deny. Even if you are denying that you are a chronic user of dangerous drugs and stand in front of the court, okay, and tell them you are not guilty, one hair strand, okay, might be used to prove if you are guilty or not guilty because of the hair follicle test. Okay, nakuha natin. And heroin is one of the primary, okay, metabolites from the users. Kaya pag yan na metabolite na proseso sa loob ng katawan, aba, buhok pwede niyang puntahan. Kaya nga feeling ko yung mga na-rehab na mga chronic user na mga buhay, merong lesser amount sa buhok nila. Kasi sabi nga, 'di ba? Chronic. Okay? Chronic users ng dangerous drugs. Guys, not even dangerous drugs. Yung mga matatanda din na gumagamit ng pharmaceutical drugs. Yung pwede yun. So, ito yung itsura. Para mas magets ninyo. Nakita ninyo yung sweat gland, nakakonekta siya doon sa may pores ng skin natin. Yung sweat gland, yan po ang naglalabas ng pawis. Pag lumabas ang pawis dyan, o naglalabas ng tubig, makikita ninyo, sumasama siya sa buhok. Tapos tignan nyo yung sebaceous gland. Konektado din siya sa buhok. Maliit yan na butas, as in na labasan ng pawis, labasan ng oil. Pwede siyang sumama dyan sa buhok. And as you can see, ano yung mga vessel, yung mga gray at saka black dyan sa baba, mga vessels yan. Yan yung capillary, tsaka mga nerve endings ng buhok. Para yung ingested drug, itsura niya, pwede siyang sumama sa kanila. Tapos yung triangle na black dyan, that is the drug from the external source. Ayun. So, ano ba yung mga factors? Guys, pag sinabi nating PK or PKA, ito po yung parang pH ito, okay? that describes how weak or strong acids are. Bakit ko malaman na ang isang sulfuric acid ay sobrang concentrated or lakas? Dahil yan sa pika. Malalaman ko na ang nitric acid ay mahina lang dahil yan sa pika. Pero actually, yun nga, madali namang unawaan, it describes how weak or strong acids are, that is pika. And then pag sinabi naman natin structure, okay, structure acts as a magnet and varies depending on the functional group attached. An example, carboxylic acid, and then also the amines or amino group. So pag sinabi natin carboxylic acid, that is lower pika. Pag sinabi naman natin amines, higher pika. Ibig sabihin, class, no, ang functional group, it is a dependent factor. Siya yung kumikilala. Ito dapat yung kinikilala natin na part ng organic compounds para malaman natin kung ito bang drugs na ito ay makakapagdulot ng mataas na pika or mababang pika sa katawan. 'Di ba sabi natin ang blood meron siyang 7.35 to 7.45 na pH, 'di ba? Ngayon, ang blood ba pwedeng maging acidic? Yes, pwedeng maging acidic. Depende yan sa ipinapasok mo na tubig or depende yan sa ipinapasok mong acidic compound. Kaya kung kuminom ka ng citric acid, hindi ka nagtubig, your blood becomes acidic. Okay? At kapag kayong blood naging acidic yan, syempre, lalapot yan. At hindi lang yan. Kapag halimbawa, uminom ka pa ng gamot, pharmaceutical drugs man yan, okay, pinapalapot yan ang ihi. It makes the urine concentrated. That's why we are able to analyze and interpret the concentrated urine, okay, can be from a chronic drug patient user because of the concentration of the ihi. Na kahit na makikita mo, bakit kaya yung ihi ko sobrang concentrated naman, uminom na ako ng maraming tubig. Baka din po kasi uminom ka ng drugs. Kasi nga ang drugs, kapag na-metabolite yan, may mga may mga organic compound structure yan, na pag sumama doon sa viscosity ng blood, lalapot sila. At kapag halimbawa may ibang chemicals pa dyan na organic na ininom ka, na hindi ko alam kung saang sources or pagkain, pag nag-bind yung mga yan, okay, ibig sabihin, they will greatly affect the pH or the pika of your blood. In short, ang bottom line, ang point dito is that acidic ang blood nang dahil doon sa amount ng pika na meron tayo or pH, at nakadepende rin yan sa structure ng mga substances na pinapasok, iniinom, kinakain natin. Okay, size matters? Yes. Meron tayong tinatawag na inductive effect. Ang inductive effect, parang tug of war yung idea niya. The larger molecule of drugs, okay, in contrast with the smaller molecule of drugs, okay, ano yung dapat natin tandaan dito? It talks about the ingestion capability. Pag mas malaki, mas mabagal. Pag mas maliit, mas mabilis. Ganun po yun. Next, ganun yung process na nangyayari. Lalo na kapag parang ito rin yung isang example niyan. Inductive effect is, pag yung droga malaki, matagal siyang iproseso, mabagal siya. Ibig sabihin, kapag yung molecule niya malaki sa katawan at malaki sa cell, yung kanyang effect mas matagal. Kapag konti or maliit yung structure ng drug molecule, okay, kaysa sa cell, mas mabilis din siyang magagamit. So, anong na-notice ninyo? Kapag ka larger molecule, para kung gusto mo mas tumalab yan ng matagal, you give your body, you give your cell a larger size of drug molecule para mas matagal siyang i-metabolize or absorb. Kasi the more na mas matagal siyang i-metabolize, mas matagal yung effect. Pero pag konti lang, edi mabilis mong mararanasan yung effect. Short period of time. Okay? Kaya size matters. Next, lipophilicity. Lipo means fat, philic means loving. May mga pharmaceutical drugs at dangerous drugs ng organic compounds nila mas mataas ang kapit sa matatabang pagkain, matatabang inumin. Meron din yung mga drugs na wala namang ganun. So, kaya nabanggit natin na isang factor sa incorporation ng drugs ay yung lipophilicity kasi halimbawa, may mga drugs na pag uminom ka ng gatas, mas magiging effective siya. Ganon. Kasi yung mga fat-soluble drinks, ganon. And also, we have the protein binding capacity which determines the bound drug concentrations. Okay? Parang ano ito, magnet naman siya. Minamagnet nito yung mga concentrations ng drugs na na-ingest ng isang tao. And also the melanin affinity. Ayan. So ano ba yung melanin? Yung color. Minsan kasi, pagka yung deposition ng drugs, nakita nyo naman sa anatomy and physiology kanina, might turn your cells darker. Di ba? Might turn the cells darker. Kasi nga, kapag yung tiny cells, syempre, puro metabolite ng drugs, malay mo, yung effect nun sa kanila ay toxin or chronic, the cell will die, mangingitim. Okay, so what are the examples of incorporated drugs? Amphetamines, ayan, cocaine. Okay, amphetamines accelerate the central nervous system. Okay? Guys, please take note. Amino group. Amphetamines. Yan ay isang classification ng droga na kapag ininom mo, talagang ma-accelerate yung central nervous system natin, yung nagbibigay ng conduction or nagbibigay ng mga electrical and chemical electrical signals sa katawan natin. Sobrang energetic natin. Okay? And also, pag sinabi mo naman na cocaine, yung cocaine ay isang example ng droga, potent, sabi niya. Ibig sabihin, malakas yan. Okay? Potent CNS stimulant na derived from coca plant. Okay? Coca plant, meron niyang small amount of cocaine. Kaya nga familiar kayo sa salitang Coca-Cola, 'di ba? Kasi meron niyang small amount of cocaine, kaya nga kapag umiinom tayo ng Coke, 'di ba? Na nagkakaroon tayo ng adjustment, nagkakaroon ng changes, parang lumalakas kayo, yung iba naman humihina. Okay? Kasi ang kinokontrol niya ay yung CNS. Ano naman yung mga drugs na ano? Yan. Yung pangatlong drugs na may classification, yung depressants. Okay? So, depressants ang tawag sa mga gamot na nagpapagaling ng anxiety. Okay? Insomnia, seizures. Yan. They slow down the central nervous system. Kaya ibig sabihin, pagka ininom mo itong gamot na ito, talagang tulog ka buong araw. O kaya naman, wala kang mood. Ganon. And ito naman, ang pang-apat, yung cannabinoids. Kung saan nakuha yung salitang cannabis. It is derived from cannabis sativa. Okay? Also known as your THC. These are used for their psychoactive effects. Okay? Ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng psychoactive effects? Yan, nare-relax ka. Tapos feeling mo, ang sarap tumalon sa building. Kasi feeling mo ikaw si Superman. Kaya pag tumalon ka, lumilipad ka. 'Di ba? Ganon yung mga nakaka-cannabinoids. Kaya nga, yung mga tao na tumatalon sa building, okay, mga nakadroga, hindi nila iniinda yung sakit. Kasi, yan ang binibigay talaga na atmosphere ng cannabis or yung THC. Okay? The psychoactive effects. Oh, yung bang feeling mo, feeling mo yung mga tao sa paligid mo aswang. Kaya ang ginawa mo, kumuha ka ng baril, pinagbabaril mo sila. Okay? Kasi feeling mo nga, aswang sila eh. Oh, ganon. Kaya, yung mga nahuhuli, di ba? Mga majority ng nahuhuli, minsan, nakagamit ng pinagbabawal na gamot. Okay? Next, sebum incorporation. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng sebum incorporation. Ayan. Pinapaliwanag lang nito yung nakita natin kanina na na illustration. So usually kapag ka-alkaline, ang point lang naman diyan kapag umabot ng pH 7.3 yung mismong concentration ng fluid, okay, mas doon siya kumakapit. Ganyan. Okay? And pH 7.3 kasi provides the advantageous conditions of basic drugs to incorporate acidic drugs at the melanocytes and keratinocytes. Okay, next, sweat incorporation. Tandaan lang natin dito, this is based from the ethyl glucuronide detection, which is a minor metabolite of alcohol that acts as a stable long-term biomarker in the hair. And the approximate level for the chronic drinker is at 30 picogram. If it reaches the 30 picogram, then ayun, pwede nating malaman na chronic user na yung isang pasyente or person. Okay? Next, also we have the external contamination. Okay, external contamination is through direct handling of drugs and touching also the surfaces. So, fetus can be exposed and it is high risk if mother has misused drugs during her pregnancy. Tama ba? Pwede bang maapektuhan ang fetus? Yes, lalo kapag kayong mother ay halimbawa allegedly o kaya naman user talaga nung gamot na ito. Okay? Kasi nga it passed through. Okay? It passed through the system.